The list price of my Porsche 911 GT3 RS is £250,000. My old 996 all in with modifications cost me £25,000. So this is 10 times more expensive than that. But is it 10 times better? Let's find out. Now you might think that with its motorsport engine, the GT3 RS would just sound so much better when you rev it when stationary. So let's find out. Okay, what I'm going to do is the little trick to let it rev past the 4,000 RPM soft limiter. You put it into drive, first gear, pull up both paddles, then it lets you rev to 6. Not all the way to 9, but still pretty far. Now this car's had something called the Gundo hack done to it, which is basically an extra pipe just welded between the exhaust muffler and the exit pipe, so some of the gases can bypass the muffler. And it makes it sound better, so I'm going to rev this up. Sounds pretty throaty. And I could rev it all the way to redline if I want to. Do you know what? I actually think this sounds the best. What do you reckon, Adam?
Yeah, definitely this one.
The old 996 sounds better than the GT3 RS. My 996 has a 3.4 litre naturally aspirated flat six engine that puts out a colossal 300 horsepower, and it drives the rear wheels via a 6-speed manual gearbox. You can't see much of the engine, just the intake there, there's the alternator and some other bits and pieces, and the airbox. Still, you can see more than you can on the GT3 RS. You see, while I may have a switch to open the engine cover here, listen, doesn't really do anything because you can't open this bit on the car. Look, it doesn't open. Right, all you can do is undo these flaps here. Press that, and that's where your oil goes. And then on the other side, there's another one. Yeah, that's for your coolant. You can't see the engine, you have to get on a ramp. But what is back here is a 4 litre flat six naturally aspirated engine that puts out 525 horsepower, and it drives the rear wheels via a 7-speed dual clutch automatic gearbox. You can see how much the 911 has grown since 1998 when the 996 was introduced compared to now, especially in the GT3 RS with all the extra widened body panels. That looks huge compared to that. While the 996 is a lot smaller than the 992, in this particular instance, it's more practical because if I just pull that, open the bonnet, you will see you have quite a useful front boot. Yes, there is a spare wheel in here. You don't get those in 911s anymore. But even with that in place, look, there's plenty of room in this front boot. Handy if you want to go away somewhere. Now, if I go to the GT3 RS, you will see that instead of that manual switch that I've got in there to unlock the front boot, it's an electronic one. There, it's opened it. I'm sure you're all aware there is no storage under here because of all the aero. They've had to move the radiator fans to there, so you've lost the front boot. Yes, that is carbon fibre, which looks rather cool, but absolutely no practicality, which means this is a bit of an arse if you want to go away somewhere on a holiday in it. As a motoring journalist, I can get tasty cars delivered directly to my door. And thanks to HelloFresh, I can get all the ingredients I need to create a tasty meal delivered direct to my door. Now, one of the problems when I'm traveling around the world reviewing cars is I don't actually have time to plan meals or even go shopping for food. As a result, I often just end up cooking the same old, which is boring, or getting an unhealthy takeaway, which is not good. But now, thanks to HelloFresh, I have access to over 100 different exciting recipes, and so tonight I'm going to be cooking sweet chili Szechuan beef noodles. There's this recipe card there which tells me step by step how to cook the food, and I've got all the ingredients I need fresh and in the right portion size. Now, according to HelloFresh, this should take me just 15 minutes to make. We're going to find out in a moment if I'm as good a cook as I am car reviewer. Looking good. Check this out. Looks amazing, smells amazing, and tastes amazing as well. Plus, it was super easy. Now, if you want to use HelloFresh, all you have to do is follow the link in the description or the pinned comment of this video. Alternatively, just scan the QR code appearing on the screen right now. Use the discount code HelloCars and you'll get 60% off your first box, then 25% off for the next 2 months, plus free dessert for life. And now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to enjoy my delicious meal. Oh, why am I eating? Now everyone slags off the 996 for being the ugliest 911, and it's all down to these headlights here. Yeah, I'll admit it, right? These are the worst headlights on any 911, but that doesn't make it an ugly car. I still think it's quite pretty. I've got this thing on 17-inch alloy wheels, so the entry-level wheel, and some people have said to me, why don't you get yourselves the 18s? But I like the extra sidewall, it just improves the ride quality. Apparently this car drives better on the 17s than the 18s, and I bought it to drive, not to look at. You might notice it looks a bit lower, a bit hovercrafty, the way these wheels go into the wheel arch. That's because, yes, I have had the car lowered. I've also had a load of mods done to it, and I'll talk you through those in a bit. Moving down the side, I mean, it's all quite simple, quite pretty looking, but the best angle, I have to say, is the rear. I think it's an absolutely gorgeous and great bit of design, this rear end. I think it looks better than the rear on almost every other 911. Just have a look at it. It's just right. I don't care what anyone else says. From this angle, the 996 is better looking than a 997 and a 993 and a 964. It just is. Compared to that pretty little and dainty 996, this GT3 RS just looks like an absolute weapon. Obviously, the main thing is this huge wing, which is in carbon fibre on this particular car, because it's got the Visac pack. Now, this is part of all the aero stuff on this car, which produces 860 kilograms of downforce. It's insane. I love the little like ducktail spoiler here, the centrally mounted exhaust. You've got this diffuser there, which obviously does a job. But it's the way all the body panels have these cutouts. Look at this, so different to the normal 992. I mean, that's quite a largish car compared to the 996, but this one with the widened body, the air intakes, the extra aero on here, which channels the air down the side of the car so hot air doesn't go into the engine. It's insane. And then this bit, I love this bit here, absolutely fabulous. And these doors, they're actually made out of carbon fibre, and you've got normal door handles, unlike on the standard 992. We've got magnesium wheels. So these wheels, right, to replace these wheels, it's £25,000. If I damage one of them, or I needed to replace a set, £25,000, which is the same value as my 996. It's crazy. Carbon ceramic brakes. Got these vents here, I suppose carbon because of the Visac pack. I mean, it just looks so serious. You don't have a normal badge, it's painted on just for lightness. Now, some people say that the GT3 RS isn't a supercar, but you look at this and you tell me it doesn't look like a supercar. This is a supercar. It feels like a supercar here on the inside as well. So we've got Alcantara steering wheel. We've got magnetically actuated gear shifter paddles. Once again, these are part of the Visac pack. I've got carbon fibre bucket seats. I've got a carbon fibre roll cage, which means that you can't get to the back seats being a GT car. There are no back seats, it's a strict two-seater. Also, you've got Alcantara here on the dash, really nice. The car was supposed to come with Alcantara all the way across the dash, but because there was a part shortage supply, they couldn't trim the whole of the dash for some reason in UK cars, so just the front part is done. Whereas European cars, it's Alcantara all the way to the windscreen. In terms of practicality in here, you've got some like nettage going on here, a little bit of space there where I keep bits and pieces, some storage under here, an annoying cup holder there, which sounds flimsy and cheap, and then it's in the way of the gear selector. You do have one for the passenger there, which is quite handy. And the glove box, this is one of the problems with this car. The glove box, see this? This is your towing guy, your key for your centre locking wheel caps, and your gloop for your tyre sealant shenanigans, because it won't fit under the bonnet. Anyway, oh no, how does this work? How do you get this in again? Does it no? Is it like that? And go, no. What a faff. You also got this fire extinguisher there, which, oh, I left that out of night. Oh my God, let's put that. Anyway, you got a fire extinguisher. There's this as well. So there's nowhere to put anything really, because that glove box is full. Fire extinguisher here. We've got racing harnesses, which I sometimes wear to just add to the experience, even though I've never taken this car on track. Mainly digital dials, but you've got a analog rev counter, which is nice. And you've got Porsche's infotainment system here, which is pretty easy to use. And you've got Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which is nice. And some key buttons for things such as aircon and stuff like that, so you can operate them easily. But one of the best things about this car are these buttons on the steering wheel, which allow you to control things such as the suspension, the torque vectoring on the rear axle with the differential, your driving modes, and your stability and traction control here by just going through these different modes. And you can set the car up exactly as you want it, so you can have it with soft suspension but maximum attack for everything else, which is how I drive it. Yeah, it feels pretty special in here. And look, fabric door pulls and carbon fibre here. Lovely. Did you know that the interior design of the 996 was originally intended for the 993, but Porsche didn't have the cash to put it into production, so they saved it for this all-new model. That means that when it first came out, it was already a little bit dated, and it's the most unusual of all the Porsche 911 interiors. It's not like anything before it or anything after it, and it's particularly unusual in this colour that I've got it in, called Savannah Beige, also known as baby sick brown or chicken korma. Also, some of the bits and pieces in here, well, it's all logically laid out, unlike the 993. It all feels a little bit cheap and nasty in places. And this one didn't really have much practicality. No glove box, no cup holders. Well, there are cup holders, but there's kind of weird things that you like have to kind of fit on there somehow like that. They actually improved that for the 996 second generation version. Dials though, classic Porsche 911, very clear, easily laid out. This has a really key upgrade. It's a head unit from Porsche, which has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. So look, on my old 996, I have Google Maps. If you've got one of these old cars, get that fitted. It will change your life. Now, one of the problems that I have with this particular car, the seats. The standard seats on the 996 are blooming awful. They don't really hold you in place at all. You can get a hardback wing seat. Now, I've got them in my Boxster, much better. Unfortunately, not in this car. However, everything is really kind of close to you. It's small, it's snug, but it's still quite roomy. I like the interior of it. There's a bit of practicality apart from the lack of glove box. Got all my tissues in there. Don't ask why. Shut, shut, shut. Oh dear. Oh dear. Oh, cars. Shut, shut, shut. I don't think I'll open that again. Storage in here. There's some more storage there. If you've got the Bose sound system upgrade, you have speakers there instead of that storage bin. There's some other bits that are broken on it. Look, there is no cover there for that vanity mirror. It should be like that. Ta-da! Now, one of the great things about the 911 has been that it's a sports car that's semi-practical. So what I'm going to do is show you just how practical it can be. So look, you can carry someone in the back. Let me just move this out of the way so you can see what... Oh no, look what I've just done. I leant on it and opened it. Oh, thank God. Right. Look, I'm not going to touch that again. Can I get in without leaning on that bit? So you have some rear seat belts, as you can see. Look, rear seat belts. And you can just about fit an adult back here. They're not going to be very comfy, but you could give them a lift for a short journey. And that's quite unusual in a sports car. Because the GT3 RS is new, I haven't made any modifications to it other than having it fitted with full satin PPF, and it's given it this kind of like matte look. This is the normal colour, GT Silver. As you can see, it's more shiny than what it looks like on the outside. I've also had some gold stickers fitted to it instead of the black ones, which come as standard. And one other thing I've had done is had these end caps for the wing painted in GT Silver, because it just looks better than the black plastic that you get as standard. I bought this 996 in 2016 when I started my job at Carwow. A little bit of a present to myself. It cost me £16,000. It had 55,000 miles on the clock. It's now done almost 70,000 miles. I've had a lot of mods done to this car. So I've had new coilovers, Öhlins Road and Track. I've got Tarot anti-roll bars. I've got Tarot drop links on it. Semi-solid engine mounts fitted, fully polybushed. Also, I've had a polybush gearbox mount. The car's had a GT3 997 short shift kit fitted to it. Upgraded the brakes, the discs, the pads, the hoses. I've got braided hoses on it. It's got a limited slip differential from Wave Track. What else have I done to it? I'm sure there's something else. Oh yeah, I've also had a lightened flywheel, new clutch in it. Is there more? It's quite a lot, isn't it? I think that's about it. But I reckon if you add up the cost of all that and the labour, we're looking about £15,000. So, you know, I'm in around £31,000 for this car. However, I reckon if I was to put it for sale, I'd ideally want about £25,000 for it. That's what I think it's worth today, £25,000. But the question is, have all these mods really improved the way it drives? Only one way to find out. When you're driving this car, there is one thing that you can't fail to forget. It's a 25-year-old vehicle, and I've got an added poly bushes to it. As a result, there are a few squeaks and rattles. Not loads, but a few. So what I usually do is drive it around with the windows a little bit open like that, and then you don't hear them anymore, and instead, you hear that exhaust note. I am going to shut the windows though, so you can hear what I'm saying. Now you probably hear that as well. That's the Lightning flywheel. When you've got low revs, it does not make a right clattering sound. With a normal standard dual mass flywheel, it's much quieter, more refined. But I don't care because this isn't a daily. It's been bought to be driven and to have fun in. But when you are just pootling about, what is it like? You have to let the car warm up before the gearbox feels nice and smooth. The short shift kit seems to make it feel a little bit worse and a bit tighter when the car's cold, but once it's warmed up, absolutely lovely. Because the standard gear shift on this is a little bit overly long, not that sports car-y, even though it is reasonably precise. But with the short shift kit, oh yes, getting the GT3 experience. Now, one of the great things about this old 911, and the thing you really notice when you're driving it, is just how small it is. And the visibility is so good. The dash is really low. These pillars aren't too fat. This mirror here is huge. And the back window's big as well. I can't believe how much bigger cars have become. I mean, I'm sitting on the floor basically in this car, yet the view forward is still really good. Now, one thing that is different to the standard car, this is the suspension, and it does feel firmer and a bit more bouncy, especially when you're tootling about around town. When you go faster, it actually loosens up. But here you can see, like, it's a bit boop, 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 but it's not bad. The steering is quite slow in town. Look at this, see? Quite a lot of lock to make it move. You can really see the car bouncing now, can't you? The thing is, it's not really uncomfortable because it sort of smooths off the final edges of the bumps. Right, I'm going to do my usual test that I do for car wow, and that's a 3-point turn, just to see how manoeuvrable this little old car is. Quite a tricky one. Quite a few turns to get round. Now, obviously, I haven't got surround view cameras to be sure, but I've done it. And the clutch, it's not too firm. You might think that it's going to be like a really strong, sporty clutch, but it's not bad at all. How many people look at it? Anyone care about this old Porsche? No one cares. I think it's of that generation that it's neither a real old classic Porsche that people look at and go, oh, isn't that beautiful? And it's not a brand new one that looks expensive and amazing like the GT3 RS. Kind of just flies under the radar. Tell you what though, when you're stationary, I can really feel the car vibrating because of those semi-solid engine mounts and the fact I've got like a semi-solid bushing on the gearbox mount as well. So you feel all the vibes of that engine. It might not be the Mexican engine, but it does have character, just doesn't have the greatest reputation for reliability. But hopefully I've done all the measures I need to prevent anything going back. One thing I will say about this car though, well, I like the light colour. You get terrible reflections of the dash in the windscreen. Anyway, do you know what? Driving around at low speeds, it's actually quite a smooth, progressive engine. Obviously, this was the first time that Porsche did a water-cooled flat six. So you got the radiators in the front, there's the engine in the back. Yeah, they can get a little bit hot. Anyway, let's feel the benefit of that Lightning flywheel now. I'm going to rev this car out, pop it into second, see it rev up nicely there, and then floor it. Oh, it pulls really well for an old car, and the throttle response is like bam. That's one of the advantages of the cable throttle. It's your foot directly connected to the throttle. However, the reason I bought this car and the reason I did all the mods is to fling it down a country road. And this is where it's most fun, where you really feel the benefit of the upgraded brakes. They've just got more feel to them, that Lightning flywheel. And as you're going quicker, suspension just does a better job. This old 996 drives like an old 911. It's all about the traction at the rear end. The front end is kind of like loose and pushes on, so you have to go slow into a corner and then fast out, otherwise it'll start to just push wide. And the steering, you can feel it just like kind of bobbling around in your hands as you're going over the bumps. It is accurate and it weights up nicely and it has a good feel to it. And the car does grip. If you do it right, it grips really nicely. The diff on this car helps. I noticed it on real tight bends, just helps the car put the power down even better. Now, I wouldn't say it's an essential upgrade just because you've got all the weight over the back end giving you great traction anyway. I'm going to do this last bit with the windows open again just to experience the noise. Here we go. See, slow in. It really does grip, but the upgraded suspension and anti-roll bars and drop links really just help it stay reasonably flat in the bends. It is a fun car to drive. In some ways, I think this era of vehicle was the peak, where the chassis and the suspension is good enough. They've got that sorted. There's no real driver's aid apart from ABS, and that is one driver's aid I would never want to do without. Okay, here's an opportunity to just rev it out. That is quick enough. You don't need to be going any quicker than that. One absolutely wonderful noise. Can the 3RS match it? One thing you notice when you first jump into the 992 GT3 RS is just how much bigger it feels. You don't seem to sit necessarily any lower, although you feel lower in the car because this dash is just higher up. You can't see the road quite as well in this. The pillars are thicker, and obviously the view out the back is obscured partially by the wing struts, but also by that carbon fibre roll cage. You sit more cocooned, I think. Now I could jack up the seat to get a better view forward when I'm driving around town, but today I've decided to wear the harnesses. It's like giving me a bear hug and it's crushing my nuts. And really, I don't want to sit up high in this car. I want to sit low, because even when you're pootling around town, you want that sensation that it's a special high performance car, and you can actually get some fun out of it just pootling about. See, I never ever drive it in automatic mode. I always have it in manual, just because of that. The clicking of the gear pedals. Now over the bumps it feels, I think, maybe better than that 996. However, more of the movement of the car gets sent through your body because the body is definitely a lot stiffer, and it all gets transmitted to you through these carbon fibre bucket seats. Now pootling around in a 20, like I can do it in third, second's probably slightly better, but the gear shift's really smooth when you're going slowly. What's a little bit harder is this. Oh, this is going to cause chaos. There's no way I'm going to make it around there. And I don't have surround view cameras. I only have a reversing camera, which was an optional extra. So I'm going to be super careful because I do not want to catch any of the bodywork and the aero. Everyone's been very kind to me here, waiting for me to do a real awkward manoeuvre. It's not too bad to drive around town. I could daily this car, a lot of people couldn't, but I quite like it. But there is pleasure to be had just from feeling the Alcantara on the steering wheel, from clackety-clacking the paddles, shunting along in traffic. Not ideal for a dual clutch gearbox, but look at this, the pull away is super smooth. The steering, it's got weight to it, but not too much weight, and it is so much more responsive. You don't seem to have to do as much turning of the steering wheel as you do in the 996 to just turn around. Big door mirrors, you see a bit of the wing in there as well, which is nice. Once you get used to being in this, it actually seems absolutely fine. And when you compare it to something like, I know, a Lamborghini Huracan, as a daily, it's easier, because ultimately it is a 911, which is a great all-round sports car. One thing I do notice when I'm cruising about, the noise level in here is definitely louder than that 996. Even though that's older and quite a raw car, like the 996 is based on the same platform as the 997, but the 997 has much more soundproofing, and it just feels a more modern, quieter, more relaxing car to be in. That 996 is raw, but this is so much rawer still. This has got a faster throttle response than that 996. Despite all the cable attachments and all that kind of shenanigans, this actually has the best throttle response of any car I've ever driven. More so than an electric car, it's just so instant. The initial pickup is insane. Now here's one huge difference between this and the 996. The speed at which you can change down, watch this, 1, 2, 3, 4 into second, and here we go. Oh my God, and the sound of that engine, which actually comes into the cabin so much better than that 996. Let's try it a bit with the window open, shall we? Here we go. Oh, a 9,000 RPM. It is my favourite engine in the world. This flat six, there's just something about it. And really, this car is all about how it handles, and this is just on another level on a twisty road compared to that 996. I mean, you are feeling 25 years development and then some, because this is the GT product. Biggest difference is the steering. It's just so much quicker. And the front end on this car plays a massive part. Because you've got that double wishbone suspension and like the McPherson strut on the old 996, it just has so much more front end grip. Like, you really notice this compared to the previous generation GT3 RS. You do find it hopping and skipping about a bit, but it still seems able to put its power down and get enough traction and grip. To be fair, this is quite a bad road, and it does okay. It's not 4-track only. I think it rides better than the GT3. They've just improved the suspension. And then there's the aero, of course. To be fair, you don't really experience that much of it on the road, but it does sometimes come into play, especially when you're braking and that wing just does its job, just adding a bit more drag. And the traction, it's insane. And the brakes, that 996 can get into its ABS pretty quickly, but this, I mean, it's just like, whoa. It just feels so special. You don't have quite so much feeling through the steering wheel, telegraphing all the imperfections in the road, but every single little movement that you put into it, you get back in a response in the car's attitude. And even though you can't absolutely thrash the arse off it, you are just getting thrills from it, just the sensations that it gives you through the steering, through the paddle shifters, through your bottom, and through your ear rolls as well. Oh, and your inner ear when you're braking and accelerating and you are just feeling the G's that you pull in this thing. But for me, one of the best things is just this. But that's the speed limit right there. And this is one of my things about this car, compared to say going for an ST, which is a manual, because really in the ST you're not going to be changing gears that much because you can do it all pretty much in second gear. Wow, what a thing. So then what's my final verdict? Is the GT3 RS really 10 times better than my 996? Well, objectively, no. Of course it isn't. However, I have limited spare time, and if I'm given 10 opportunities to go out for a drive in a car, every single time I'm going to take the GT3 RS and leave the 996 at home. So you could say, subjectively, it is 10 times better. I hope you'll enjoy the video. If you did, give it a like. Click on the video windows to watch some more videos. And if you click on my little face, not this one, the one somewhere around on the screen, you can subscribe to my channel. And I've got some more GT3 RS content coming up soon, which you won't want to miss out on. Thanks for watching.